Hi everyone, welcome back to another lightsaber video. I'm really excited about this one because I've only recently decided to start going after trying to collect all the real world parts that are the components of the Obi-Wan Kenobi lightsaber from A New Hope. I've mentioned this before briefly in previous videos. These are incredibly rare and usually very expensive parts. So I've always kind of put it off, thought that's not something I want to necessarily look into anytime soon. But it's not complete. It's not anywhere near complete. This is Roman props, but I do have a couple of parts I'm going to show today. But I'll just quickly go over it. For those who don't know, I mean, there's 5 major components basically to the Obi-Wan lightsaber: the emitter, the grenade section, the clamp assembly, booster, and hand wheel. And so the real world parts. The emitter is a balance pipe from a Rolls-Royce Derwent engine. That is probably one of the 2 hardest parts to find these days, particularly the correct variant, which is the female variant. There's also a male variant, which can be kind of like altered and look pretty close, but it's still a little bit smaller here. So the dimensions aren't perfect, but it's much cheaper. So it is also a good option. But the female is really the correct type. So yeah, balance pipe, then this whole section there. This grenade section came from a Hales number 3 MK1 British rifle grenade from World War One. So that is also very rare, but not as rare as balance pipe or booster. Booster is also the 3rd hardest part to find. So these 3 are really the sort of the big 3: balance pipe, grenade, booster. The booster comes from I think a World War II machine gun. Again, British machine gun booster. I forget the correct model, NM2, something like that. A Browning booster, but that is incredibly rare. That's by far the hardest part to find these days now, and it's very expensive. The clamp is easy. I mean, that is just a standard Graflex clamp, although it is a Fulmer, so you know it is the slightly less common variant of the Graflex clamps. It has the usual bubble strip from the Exactra calculators, just like Darth Vader, just like Luke Skywalker. It has a pair of transistors, which are also quite hard to find because they come from a specific calculator that was only in production for a couple of years in the late 60s, early 70s, and then they changed the stamping on them. So as you can see, the stamping on them is specific. It sort of says ME and there's some numbers on them. It stands for Marconi Elliott. These washers underneath are from I don't know, they're vintage aircraft steel washers, so those are easy to find. Booster, as I said, very hard. Hand wheel, that comes from a Armitage Shanks tap that was made in the 70s, so that is not that hard to find. The Starling, the specific type I think is called Starling. It's not that hard to find, but again, I mean, something that was in production only in the 70s, it's not going to be, you know, it's not as common as the clamp. I think in terms of rarity, that is the commonest, the clamp, and the bubble strip as well. These are still widely available. Next comes hand wheel. Next, I'd say grenade. Next, maybe I would say these days the balance pipe. Then, funnily enough, the transistors, and finally the booster. So yeah, So that was a quick just overview of the parts that make up the Obi-Wan lightsaber. So as I said, mine is almost entirely a Roman props, except for the common two bits. So my hand wheel is actually vintage. So this has always been the real part. The Armitage Shanks hand wheel is a vintage, and the D-ring that's on it is also a vintage. This middle clamp assembly is almost all vintage. So it's a Fulmer clamp with a Exactra bubble strip from a calculator, so that's real as well. The washers, as I said, are easy to find, so they are vintage, but the transistors are not. These are just standard Roman transistors. But then everything else, the main three parts, are replicas. Until now. So I've got two parts to show today. First of all, this one. These are technically the correct type of transistors, so they're the right size and shape and everything. And as you can see, ME stands for Marconi Elliott, but the stamping is not the right one. It just says DAT something 29, etc. There's DAT 11s as well. So these are not that rare. These are still possible to find, and they are, you know, they didn't cost me much. I think a pair of these was like £60, whereas the correct ones, the ones that have the right stamping with the numbers, MA3 whatever, they can go for 400 each. Yeah, 400 each. So that would be 800 to 900 for just a pair of these, whereas this is a tenth of that price. And it's very, very close. I mean, they both say ME, so that was my compromise. I mean, I'm really not going to spend 10 times as much just for a tiny... I mean, in the future, if I find ones that are cheap, then I would definitely upgrade. If not, I certainly won't be paying premium prices just for that tiny difference. But yeah, so that will take care of this whole clamp assembly. Now it'll be completely vintage. The next part, which is the most exciting, is this one. I just got this from a good friend of mine. If you're watching, you know who you are. Thank you so much, man. This is wonderful. I'm very, very pleased that I have one of the big three now, and probably the second rarest part. And it is a female, so it is the correct variant. So this is a Derwent Rolls-Royce Balanace Pipe female variant, and it is absolutely stunning. It just has all the natural pitting, and it's been patinaed very nicely as well. With, I mean, you could see the marks on it, the heat staining, the oil, the grease. It looks wonderful. I'm going to try to zoom into it as best I can and just show off all the details. So yeah, this is incredible. I mean, these, depending on the condition, honestly, these have been going for $4,000–5,000 US dollars sometimes. The prices for these are very, very steep. I mean, I didn't pay anywhere near that, but it still did not come cheap, of course. It does have a fair bit of pitting on this side, but much smoother on the other. And I actually like this. I actually prefer it with this pitting. It just makes it look more real, to be honest. So that's it. So this is going to be replacing my Roman props balance pipe, which looks phenomenal, by the way. There's nothing wrong with it. I mean, it's not perfectly accurate because this is as you can see, this is made of two pieces. So there's an inner piece there, as you can see from that lip there. and an outer piece. This is just one piece, but that's an older model. He does make a new one now that's 2 pieces and more accurate. You know, there's never been any complaints with this. Or the Dave Parkin, also even more accurate than Roma's because it's 2-piece and it's made of the correct material, which is Inconel. Both of those are fantastic options for replica emitters. But I will, of course, be removing this and replacing with the real part. And that is going to be my first part on this, I'm sure, very long journey. I will also replace these transistors. And then I will literally just be missing the grenade and the booster. So hopefully I'll be back in the not too distant future with part 2 of this video, with most likely a grenade, and hopefully in time the final part will be when I find the booster. So thank you very much for watching, and I will see you in the next one.